Kenya tuko na disaster, watoto wetu wanazidi kuzikana, na Tomboya ameshika tama, alituacha kama angali kijana. Je, angekuwa mambo yangekuwa sawa? Ndivyo walivyopanga Maulana. Deni mulizoacha bado tunalipa, na tumekopa zingine China, tukajenga reli pia barabara, zilizobaki watu wakasanya. So tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana, sikio la kufa halisikii dawa, tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie bade, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana, tusipoziba ufa tutajenga kuta, tusake zetu tungali vijana.
Waumini kwa matrina, pasi kwa bima, kushoto fungu la 10 sadaka kulia. Ndio maana mbele ya kanisa mheshimiwa anakula sakramenti kabla ya raia. Siku za mwisho zimeshawadia, na revelation inatuambia hii generation inachoma picha, ni generation yetu. So tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana, sikio la kufa halisikii dawa, tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana, tusipoziba ufa tutajenga kuta, tusake zetu tungali vijana.
Mishuki alisema tufungeni mikanda, ona leo twavuna tulichopanda. Kura zetu zilitugawanya, makabila na pesa pia tulimanga. So when you make your bed, usingizi gani tumelala? Tutajua tujui, Vision 2030 tabaki ni story. Tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana, sikio la kufa halisikii dawa, tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana, tusipoziba ufa tutajenga kuta, tusake zetu tungali vijana.
Dosi aliniambianga freedom never comes for free. We vote tribe ama real cash, ask Boni. Tuna Roma lia mwezi tajesu plus dogi, wal mzima Twitter keotindo fast body. Ban pictures in Africa, black coffee and none. I'm richer than my neighbor but we're both in a slum. If the rich always win, why should the popular run? Unless democracy ni wants use them only for fun. Na hii weekend tuko church tunauza sura kabisa, post ya haga wenda poa sana na caption ya scripture. Kayondo gospel pitisha bagi ya sadaka kwa club, yeah. Traffic madrag ubaindai, traffic bandai zina drag. But maya mwizi amemake stories za shamba amegrab, kono inahonga imevaa bracelet ya colors za flag, yeah.
Alright, tunasema mkono ambayo inaonga ndio imevaa bracelet ya nini? Ya flag ya Kenya. Nashinkina na mistari kweli. Good morning, Cindy. A very, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of The Tackle on Friday of the 16th October 2020. 16th October 2020. Tafadhali ukifika pale kama kawaida, like when you like, I get to know you're watching us. After you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. Tafadhali ukifika pale fanya nini? Like, alafu una share. Like and share. Na mwisho watu pia. Sijui senior citizen wanaina alienda wapi? Senior citizen wanaina alienda wapi? Kewa from Dubai sijui alienda wapi? Alright. Naona Ezekiel K Mutaya Sham kama morning. Collins Misoy anasema good morning. Good morning to you Collins. Naona Nicholas Adema anasema morning from Kisumu. Thank you. Naona Derek Washira Ireri anasema tuned in. Steven Kiprotisa Go anasema good morning kiongozi. Thank you. Johnson Kariri anasema good morning. Sawa Arab anasema morning here at the Green City Kericho. Noru Sini anasema morning team Tako. Boniface Cheria anasema good morning. Good morning to you. Frank Alila anasema good morning. Good morning Shaba Kerubo anasema good morning. Good morning. Bye bye. Code anasema good morning to you. Sydney Tambasi anasema good morning. Salimia engineer Radical Scholar na mwalimu. Radical Scholar amesalimiwa. Kagiba Ama anasema hello Ken Kip Kentai, anasema good morning. Edwin Kamau, good morning. Rono Kipchumba Koneri, jamaa wa Kano. Tingiza Kitole anasema good morning Kenya, good morning to you. Philemon Kosgei anasema morning from Kericho. Kiprotije anasema wapi credit leo? Pole, tutaanza Jumatatu mambo ya credit. Ongoya Zabedi Elisha mwenyewe he is out of town this week, lakini naona ametujoin. Anasema good morning good people waiting to imbibe wisdom. Alright. Gibero Badia honorable anasema good morning. Bitok Sheria Friday tujenge ukuta kwa sababu tuko babaya, tujiangalie kabisa. Kwa kweli Dismas Kipkoech anasema good morning Takla, I love your job. Thank you so much Dismas. Milton Tirop anasema logged in from Sydney Australia. Wale majamaa wa Sydney Australia, thank you so much. The guys from the land down under, thank you so much. Alana anasema good morning kutoka Molo. Sanato Dennis Kirui anasema watching from Milan. Dennis Kore anasema tuned in from Bomet. Brayo anasema good morning tuned in from Rongai. Asante sana Brayo. Vet Charlie anasema morning from Canada. Edwin Duda anasema good morning to class. Nelson Kadhinja anasema morning. Matthew Bor anasema good morning boss, good job Bitok. Asante sana Bore. Asante Matthew Bor, thank you so much. Just as Rotuma anasema following from CBD. Kiliofas Tenara Macau. Asama good morning to class. Have a blessed day and enjoyable weekend. Tuned in from Kipchabo 029. Thank you. Dani Mwangi anasema good morning from Bungoma. Beking Keino Jr. anasema morning. Christopher Sang anasema chamge Bitok. Christopher Sang from Kansas City. Asante sana watu wa Kansas City wa America. Thank you so much. AJ Kandie anasema good morning to tackle team. Good morning to you Festus Martin. Good morning. Good morning to you Festus. David Chingi anasema good morning kaka tuned in. Thank you so much David Chingi. Edwin anasema I have been organizing 2022 Deep State. Manzo ndio maana umepotea, ulikuwa kupanga Deep State ya Kettle Deep ama wapi? Jerodiso Kongo anasema good morning to class. Baking Ken anasema live from County 036. Korer K Obadia anasema good morning guys. Good morning to you. Ezekiel Moibei, good morning. Mosbei anasema good morning kiongozi, following though we lost our grandmother, we are laying her to rest today. Pole sana Ezekiel Mosbei. Poleni sana. Mungu acha Mungu aliwaze and may everything work well. Kaka Chris anasema good morning tackle tuned in from Kiambu. Kasim Mohamed anasema good morning. Arab Toyo Roger anasema good morning Gerald. Where is Dennis nowadays? Dennis ako kwa mlima baada hajashuka. Salah Abdi Sheikh anasema good morning following from Machakos County. Justin Asiago anasema good morning ladies and gentlemen, waiting to learn from the discourse. Asante. Peter Njunga anasema morning greetings from Greece. Watu wa Greece asante sana. Anasema poa sana ndugu. Fikita Kigana anasema tanga habari zenu. Tanga hata wewe habari yako. Chris Bosina anasema morning the Takla, siku hizi Bishop anachelewa sana. Yuko kwa mlima. I think he's praying for the country and the deep state. Betu Laga anasema good morning, I'm logged in from Kericho following you back to back. MC Kalia, chairman wa Kettle Deep, chairman wa Menokwisha Kettle Deep. Naona ameingia, asante sana chairman wa Menokwisha Kettle Deep. Hata kama uliibiwa kura, Yesu bado ni Bwana. Alright. Kama hatujaenda sana, nataka nani atuombee leo. Omollo, our cousin. How are you, sir?
I'm okay.
How was your weekend? How was your week?
My week is okay.
Is or was?
Still is.
Oh, okay. So it's still active.
Yes.
The week is still active. Alright, tupeleke mbele za Mungu alafu tukirudi tuanze kazi.
Okay, let's believe and pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning. We want to deliberate on a number of issues that affect us as a people. We want to dedicate all these matters to you, and we call upon you to fill us with with wisdom so that we can have good deliberations. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Radical scholar.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
You need to show these people your t-shirt.
My t-shirt. How can it be seen? Do I stand up?
Nasema nini? I wasn't born in Africa. Africa was born in me.
Hallelujah.
Ni uzalendo umeanza ama ni ukora ya tao?
Kwame Nkrumah. That's what he said many years back. Yes.
And they said he wasn't born in Africa. Africa was born in him.
Yes.
All right. Good to see you. How's your week?
My week was good.
Of it,
Mine
yeah.
was.
Oh, yours was, huh?
Was.
This is no, it's no longer good.
It is not is.
Our good friend Dr.
Hey,
the only doctor south of Limpopo, was it not?
Usijali.
I was sleeping at that time. Unajua geography ilikuwa in the afternoon baada ya githeri.
Hata mimi nilidrop hiyo geography nikawacha.
How are you doing?
Very good.
How's your week?
Very good. I thank God. I can't complain. Yeah, it was really nice.
Even if you complain, there's no problem.
But I still have a day.
You're allowed to complain, huh?
Usiseme ni kama imeisha. Kesho.
Anything can turn around.
Yes.
Yanaweza geuka. Anasema huenda yakawa, wanasema huenda yakawa ama huenda yaliokuwa yakawa.
Itakuwa mzuri kesho zaidi.
Swahili ngumu zaidi.
Mzuri zaidi.
All right guys, thank you so much for joining us for Sheria wiki hii. Kazi yenu la poleni last week mulianda kidogo sababu baba yenu walikuwa hapa, unajua anaitwa senior counselor your fathers. The senior was here, he took over the bench, but anyway we are happy to have you guys back again. And I hope you guys are ready to tackle the issues that you put in. Na tutaanza kuchapa kazi pole pole. I think tuanze na gazeti, tupige headlines za magazeti, alafu tukirudi tukuje tuingie sasa kwa hiyo kazi yenu nyingine, waachie meza muendelee na kazi. Acha nipige majambo mengine hapa, shout out kidogo. Naona Vivian Kogo, thank you so much Vivian, good morning. Yevi Mara, good morning. Terror from Bomet. Sheila Chelan, morning locked from Thika. Kilbert Kidian, watching from Tuapa Mombasa. Kelvin Kibos, good morning. Dan Melly, Jamaa Dan Will Investments, good morning, representing the great Wareng Power. So sana William Mwangi anasema good morning team. All right, gazeti ya Standard headline inasema hungry man. Nasema Uhuru sends BBI man to New York, rewards former IEBC bosses. Kenya hii nimefika mahali kila uuze kopea kila mtu mahali enda nwe shamba. Alright, hapo inasema pia the official economy is in recession. The full impact of COVID-19 now can be told. The economy contracted by 5.7% in the recent quarter, the worst drop in 59 years according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Now EU spoiled Amina's WTO party. EU spoiled Amina's WTO party. Unaona pale Amina alikuwa amepigiwa campaign kabambe sana na serikali ya Kenya aweze kuingia pale World Trade Organization. The European Union reneged on promise to support Kenya for top job, citing fears over close ties with China. And I think kuna shida inaanza kuja vita between the East and the West. All right, that is the Chinese na Wazungu wale ambao walitu colonize hapa kidogo kutu colonize sana juu at least walituacha na kitu. Naona Devian, the deputy president, decries broken promises, stalled projects and unfulfilled ambitions by his own government. Says the handshake between Uhuru and Raila has undermined development agenda. A very interesting time to live in. The opposition leader is selling government agenda more than the government, and the guy who is in government is now the new opposition leader. Yaliondoele sipite ama yaliokuja ndio tungoje. And some I want to tell our friends wherever they are, if you have no respect for William Ruto, please have some respect for the Almighty God. Don't tear gas charges. All right. Somebody President William Ruto addresses a rally at Miriri Center, Kirutu Masaba, Nyamira County. Daily Nation inasema refilled Uhuru planned for power weekend and some alignment. President Kenyatta is set to meet the cabinet and Deputy President William Ruto at retreat today as he and handshake partner Raila Odinga prepare the ground for the unveiling of the Building Bridges Initiative report. On Saturday, the head of state is scheduled to meet the leadership of the Senate and the National Assembly, who will play a key role in ensuring changes proposed in the BBI sail through in the two houses. Kama BBI inakuja finally, looks like Baba was not blubbering, or Baba pia naye ameanza kuleta vitisho, amesema unibei kitu ama tuvunje ndoa. Rutaman cleared Turani Musambweni. DP William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga's camps have started grueling campaigns. You're on page 6. Patients suffer in NHIF hospital. Raw blame game between NHIF and some private hospitals leaves patients with FT bills. Nimeona pia gazeti ya The Star. Gazeti ya Star ilikuwa inasema ya kwamba JSC ambao kina daktari wanatoka huko, inasema mbona ilikuwa inasema inside JSC plan to kick out CJ Maraga. Inasemekana kwamba kuna jamaa ambao wanataka kupiga tege CJ Maraga. People Daily inasema Uhuru Raila set stage for BBI rollout, ambayo inasemekana inaweza kuja anytime soon. Lakini kama tujienda sana, wacha tuingie historia ya BBI kwanza. Daktari Ambani, it looks like the president and Raila Odinga are planning to use both houses in parliament, the Senate and the National Assembly, to push the BBI. Do you think it's going to happen?
Umenishtua sana.
Nataka
akili yangu ilikuwa haijafikiria hiyo maneno.
Hiyo imefika hapa kwanza.
Akili yangu inafikiria, lakini tutajaribu. Of course they have to take it to the house. If I'm thinking as a lawyer, then constitutional amendment has to begin there. Because there are only two options. One is to get half the county assemblies, more than half the county assemblies, as you know, to support. So it means you go all the 47 counties and ensure that you get enough counties. You understand? And that requires that before that you start with some signatures and all that. That's a tedious process. I'm not sure that's one of the options available to them. The easy way would be to start with the parliament, if you want to amend the constitution. And so you try and get the National Assembly and Senate, get the relevant majorities. And because, in my view, what they need will require a referendum, that would be the easier part. Parliament is the easier part. The real part would be in the referendum. I have question marks, though. You will remember that just recently they tried to change the leadership of the houses, both houses, changing the majority leader, changing the deputy majority leader, and I think the whole idea was to prepare ground that when they bring these things that they believe in, which is BBI, they will also have corresponding leadership in Parliament that accepts that. So that was already the first step, and they seem to be doing well. Until we got Senate, resisting
the revenue sharing.
You remember the revenue sharing formula that had been proposed, and that begins to tell me that it will not be an easy place to go. Senate itself, unless additional work is done, I think we expect to see trouble in Senate. And if that is Senate is very few people. You would then be expecting that there will be serious trouble in the National Assembly. So I think they can, but I expect that there will be a serious challenge. You'll remember that already people like Murkomen are not happy in Senate. People like Malala already even arrested. And you've heard what Duale has been talking from the National Assembly side. Kenyans will recall that Duale himself was the leader of majority there, and you cannot ignore the influence he has. The deputy president does not support BBI. I think it's going to be an interesting show. But yes, if they want BBI, they have to start there, in my view. The other option is not on the cards, I think.
Right. Yeah. So according to you, they could actually use the assemblies, the houses, both houses, yes, to push the changes. Yeah. Are they feeling maybe it will fail on a referendum, or what could be the idea? My good friend, who was not born in Africa, Melissa, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on bigger issues, but
Follow. All right.
Technical.
Is it? I think there's something that was speaking. All right. And Melissa.
I'm waiting for the report. That's what I wanted to say.
What do you think could they be planning with the use of the border? Because it looks like they're now taking the parliamentary side, and the president is supposed to meet today. Anaonana na wabunge. The two houses, that is the Senate and the National Assembly. Yeah. I think they are planning to find a way to bring the amendments to the House, because they are saying that that's on Daily Nation. In Asema, President Kenyatta is set to meet the cabinet deputy president at Adutu today as the Anshek panel Odinga prepare the ground for unveiling of the building bridges initiative report. Also, the head of state is scheduled to meet the leadership of the Senate and National Assembly.
Tunataka kusoma hiyo report. All this time we've been hypothesizing on what's happening, what it could be, what it could not be. So mi nataka kusoma report. But I agree with Ambani on that would be the easier way. I mean, where else would you start from? Because even in the Constitution, those are the steps that I listed. I think popular initiative may fail at this point because the country is so divided. But I think for once, can we just see that report? What does it say?
Lakini wanataka kusikizana pale kando kwanza kabla wailete ripoti. Joseph, what do you think? What chance does the mwananchi have at this? Because it looks like the leaders are skimming up there. And then they'll come up with an already decided report and say, all right, guys, here is the BBI. We have changed 1 to 3 things, and you need to learn how to live with it and move forward.
I have followed discussions on the BBI with a lot of apprehension and confusion. And a lot of times you see people falling into camps from people who support the BBI and people who are opposed to the BBI. If you oppose the BBI, you are told, how can you oppose it and you've not seen the report? Why don't you support it? And it is not legitimate for you to ask that, how do we support what we've not seen? So it's like we are being put in a train where we've been told that, well, the captain of the train knows where we are going to, and it is the right place for all of us. Let's get in and support it. I don't think that's the right way to deal with governance issues and to deal with constitutional issues. It could be true that this constitution is not perfect. But no country has got a perfect constitution anyway. If you want to amend the constitution, we must start by first of all asking that the goals that the constitution embodied, that we accepted in 2010 as a people, how far have we implemented them? What challenges have we faced in the implementation? And how do we reform certain sections of the constitution so that we can be able to deal with these challenges? If we don't take that approach that includes everybody and an approach that inspires confidence, then I think everybody will be fair to say that the people and Wanjiko are being excluded from the process, and that the intention might simply be to meet certain private interests using the constitutional reform process, which is unfortunate for us.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I think just to agree with him, because he makes a serious point there. Before you decide that this constitution has problems, have you done an audit? You know, have you reviewed the happenings of the last 10 years? Remember, it's now 10 years old. Yeah, I was saying in another forum that kids born that time, wameshakalia kea. Unakumbuka ile mtihani ilikuwa last year? The kids have already sat that exam. So it's enough to look back and count, like Omollo was saying, really. And I think, Omollo, I really agree with you. What have we done? What have we not done? What are the gaps? Where did we go wrong? What item, if we introduce our country, is going to even move better? You know. But when you look at what's happening, the same guys who are violating the constitution, are the same ones demanding to change it. You know, we can't trust them.
True.
The worst part also, if I was to follow up on that argument, was the guys who want the constitution changed are not us, the ordinary people. It's coming from up. And Melissa and Omollo already said that we are just waiting to see the report. But meanwhile, we are being told, usipinge na hujaisoma. Na huyo anasema ameiona.
Na hiyo anasema support.
Huyo anasema support.
Anasema BBI is a very good thing.
We can support without seeing, but we cannot oppose without seeing. And I think there's a problem there.
And did you hear the president saying that he's creating a constitutional moment?
Yes.
And I was like, wow, for all the people who study what a constitutional moment means, you can't do it one-man show.
You can say it now, declared a constitutional moment.
He's declared it.
Yes.
And not in a bid to, I think, I don't know what he said, disrupt it or whatever, but to improve it. And which is what we are saying. Have you done an audit to even say what can you improve? You and your government, these small issues we're talking about today, from express highway, whatever the viewers are going to listen, but the whole constitution, you want to improve it and create a constitutional moment on your own.
As a man. One man.
As a man.
No.
Yani kina maumau.
And the question is, you know, there's a...
Tulipigana 10 years, so unafanya tu.
And you see,
constitutional moment peke yako.
Melissa is picking up something, and there's something you mentioned about the constitution is good or not good. The question is, who decides whether a constitution is good or not? Ni nani anakaanga kwa anasema sasa, hii katiba mahali imefika si mzuri tena. Who makes these decisions? Are constitutional moments manufactured? Like we sit in a corner and say, now it's time to have a constitutional moment. At what point do you feel like a country needs to change its constitution? Where does it begin from?
Maybe I should start. I always think of constitutions in two ways. There are constitutions that have constitutionalism, and there are constitutions that don't have constitutionalism. Our teacher used to say that, Okoto Gendo, in the past. These constitutions that have no constitutionalism are made every day by dictators. Museveni makes constitutions every day in Uganda. Amends, and Kagame does whatever he wants in Rwanda. You know, that's so easy to do. Those constitutions usually are not transformative. They are for those in power. And if that is what Uhuru and Raila wants, well, that's fine. But if we are looking for a transformative constitution that brings constitutionalism, that limits power, that empowers the people, that brings rights to the people, you know, that makes government our servant and the people the sovereign, that kind of constitution does not come from above. That constitution is always in the people's hearts. The people feel it. They think they want rights. They want to get back power. They talk. They demonstrate. They fight. They die. And it never takes a year, like Melissa said, that now I declare a constitutional moment. It is a process in the people's life. If you remember, I don't know how many Kenyans are old enough on Facebook to remember what the likes of Kivuta Kibwana, Willy Mutunga did in the 1990s. It took almost from 1982 to around 2000 to begin having consensus that there's a constitutional moment and that these are the issues we want. And by that time, the women's rights have come in, environmental rights have come in, children's rights have come in. Everyone is saying, persons with disability, everyone is saying, I want my rights. And there's consensus on what those rights are. What we are being told to read before we speak, you know, cannot be a constitutional moment. And I'm just asking that Kenyans should remember that constitutions don't come from above. They should come from beneath, from themselves.
Bottom up.
Otherwise, they should stop that nonsense.
Not top, bottom.
Although, Ambani,
Yes.
don't you think that the fact that the political class is trying to undo the gains that we achieved in 2010 is actually an affirmation that this constitution is a good constitution?
Yeah.
They don't believe in it. They've realized that
Yeah.
this constitution is actually working very well for the public in terms of limiting their powers, in
Yes.
terms of limiting discretion, in terms of trying to drive some sort of a nationwide agenda, which they don't believe in.
Yes.
So their fight to reform the constitution, when they're saying that this constitution is bad, they're actually right. This constitution is
It's bad for them.
Yes.
But this constitution might be good for the
Oh
public.
yes, oh yes. Omollo, I think I don't know if you want me to answer because I agree with you.
I also agree.
Because this constitution was a coup by the people. That's how I look at it. The people, by some extraordinary means and powers from heaven, I don't know, succeeded in pushing for constitutional reforms and succeeding in having a constitution that the political leadership would never think about. So why they are not able to implement the constitution is because the constitution is ahead of them. The constitution is asking, for example, that we need leaders with integrity. These guys have no integrity. You understand? How many crooks, you know? So they will seize any opportunity to take us back. Yeah, take us back to a constitution that they can live with. This one they can't live with. I think, Omollo, I'm really with you on this point.
I also agree. It's the way we young people say, wanna struggle.
Imewasumbua.
Inawasumbua.
Naona pia on the standard inasema an angry man. So the question was, you know, this country is a very amazing country, and that's why, I mean, it's very bearable to be Kenyan because there's a lot of comedy. From the political class to what is happening on the ground. I mean, and that's why I think we have survived. Because this country cannot survive if you are very normal. You need mad people around you. You need all this comedy that happens. We are in a government where the deputy president is saying that the government is not working or has not delivered his promises. And we have an opposition leader who is selling government agenda more than the president himself. And there's someone who was saying here, Ahmed Nasir on Friday, saying that the only option that Raila has as we head to 2020 from 2021 is to tell us how Jubilee has worked, how it has built railways, how it has built roads and other things from next year. And now the DP is building. I mean, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Melissa, have you ever imagined you could be here one day where Baba is now selling government agenda and William is outside the government fighting?
I mean, I've started following politics pretty late, but it's interesting, especially Ruto's new campaign of hustlers versus dynasty. I wouldn't imagine the political class and those who are in power, especially like a deputy president, would be talking like that, going all over, saying how the government has failed, you know, they've stolen and they've agreed that they've stolen and let's move on. I mean, those declarations are people who are just absorbed with power completely, and now they've come up with gimmicks. I mean, it's an interesting time to see how Kenyans will actually fall into that trap of hustlers versus dynasty, because it's just rubbish to me. I mean, it's just greed upon greed upon greed. But it's interesting nonetheless, because Ruto, for example, in my view, seems to be capturing that sort of forgotten class of persons, the working class and those who seem to be disadvantaged by the government. So I'm just keen to see where his tokens will go, the wheelbarrows, the anapea nini hair dryers.
Hata watu wa huko kwangu wanataka wheelbarrow.
Wanataka wheelbarrow.
Kama mnajua Ruto
wapangisha line tuwapeleka wapewe wheelbarrow.
Yeah. So the people are looking at this guy and like, if you're saying you're a hustler and I'm a hustler, so we're the same, so we can all get power. So I don't know how people are understanding that slogan.
I think it's all about narratives, because it's like Canaan, you know. Baba told people you're going to, and people will say, sisi tunaenda Canaan December. Hatutakuwa Kenya, tunaenda Canaan, because it's about narratives, political narratives and all that. You find, and that brings me Omollo. Is Raila Odinga losing his constituency? Because for the longest time, Raila Odinga has been seen for the man, first of all, was fighting for corruption, you know, against corruption, not for, against corruption. And also, the question that Ruto right now as the hustlers, Walalahoi, it looks like now he has lost them. Because when you look at corruption issues, for instance, he has been accused of cleansing people like Waiguru, who have been accused of corruption. The other day at KEMSA, he was the first man to come and defend government on issues of KEMSA. Because I'm watching out to find investigation. A year ago, 2 years ago, Raila Odinga will be doing press briefings every day from Capitol Hill. And it looks like now the roles are switching. The DP has realized that the constituency that Raila had is stranded and is coming into picking. When you look at Raila's strategy at this point, where he needs to defend government, whether elected or not, by hook or crook, what does that mean for him?
I'll respond from a general point of view.
Yeah.
I think we must appreciate that governance and political achievement is about access to public resources and political power. And while people might try to convince us that they are running for office because they've reflected about the plight of the people and they're so disturbed about it that they want to spend their own money to actually change this country. I mean, let me borrow from Melissa. Melissa is younger, so she's able to use more immodest language. That's rubbish. People running for political office run for their own selfish interests.
It's never about you.
It's never about the people. Because occasionally there might be a coincidence between the interest of the people and the interest of the politician. In which case, then you rely on the politician to achieve that ultimate goal, but you're very aware that ultimately the politician is looking for his own private interest. And if you look at states generally in developing countries, and Kenya included, they manifest in some sort of a paradoxical manner in terms of the state is extremely both strong and weak. The state is extremely strong for the wrong reasons. That if they want to breach fundamental rights and steal money, then it is extremely strong because there are no checks and balances. It can do anything it wants. But the state is equally extremely weak. It is extremely weak in achieving what a proper state has been called upon to achieve. So that I think the way that Raila supporters look at his position at the moment, I don't think they really feel betrayed. According to them, maybe it's their turn to eat. Baba has fought for too long. Maybe it's his time to eat, and his people are supporting him in the meantime. Apumue kidogo. Which is unfortunate.
Omollo, which people do you have in mind? Which are these people?
His cousins.
Generally, the people who tend to support Raila, the poor people. And I think
are they poor people across the country or Luo?
The Luo poor.
Well, the Luo poor, but of course you must appreciate that his followership goes beyond the Luo region. So it's the Luo poor and the other poor people.
Okay.
Although sometimes I actually think that most of our problems is because people have gotten to a point where they've admitted that maybe politicians will never change this country. And so for most of us, we just look at political process as some form of comedy. And that's why when politicians go to the public to give out money, it's actually the turn of the people to eat, because they know very well that if
So
you
it's
don't
a
eat
revolving
today,
wheel.
if you don't eat today, you'll not see them tomorrow. So when they bring the money, take the money immediately, then give them whatever position they want, which they'll get anyway, then let them go and also eat for 4 years, then come to you towards the end of the political term, which is quite sad.
You see, Omollo, I wanted to disagree with you. This is my take, and to the question Bitok asked, whether Raila is losing the constituency or not. If, for example, you want to understand the position of Raila, I think you need to listen to Oburu Odinga. I think so. Oburu said clearly, it's good to have an elder brother that supports you. He said clearly that, look, we have been winning all the other elections, you see, but there's something we've always missed. Deep state. You know, that deep state. So this time, we have the people, and now we are adding the deep state. I think that's what Oburu said. And that, I think, is the narrative on their side. But if you asked me, there's a different story that Raila needs to read. There's a different narrative, which is, I think, is the more accurate one. I think that Raila succeeded in, forging a figure of a father of democracy, a father of human rights. And when he fought the Moi regime in the 80s, around the coup and later getting detention, I think he got a very high status, in my view. And if he had used it well, obviously he would have gotten to that level of the likes of Mandela and the like. He just didn't cultivate it well. Maybe he needed counseling and mentorship. But nevertheless, Raila represented the outsiders, those who have been left out across the country. In the Moi days, for example, I think all weapons were focused on Moi and those he represented, Biwott, the late Biwott, if you remember. Then when the Kikuyus began to come to power, then Raila focused all his artillery on them. And the narrative was, these are the people who have been eating, Murugaru, Kiraitu, Kibaki, all those characters. They're eating, they're the ones who are messing us up. And remember, the story goes back to 1969, And so all the nation, I think, coalesced around Raila, except the Kikuyu themselves, because they thought that Raila was the symbol of salvation. What I think has happened now, and this is dangerous, I hope you can see, is that Uhuru Kenyatta, who has been representing, say, the central leadership, the insider group, both central in terms of the power and central in terms of the province, is now leaving power. And there might be no need to fight a Kikuyu. I think so. The Kalenjins, represented by Ruto, are out of power, I think. So there's no need fighting them anyway. So whoever has been following Raila for these reasons, I think is now misplaced and has to find an alternative. So if I picked a simple thing like the land issue at the coast, it was very easy to go there and say, the Kenyattas have stolen our land, you see? And everyone will say, oh, tutaki huyo mtu. Yeah? But what will he say now that is the Kenyattas at the coast? I think it's going to be very hard. And that's how it becomes difficult, I think, for Raila. So he's probably, in my view, lost the entire constituency he had except the Luo. And it goes back to what Mazrui used to say about Jaramogi, his own father, that he had asked all Kenyans, regardless of class, to follow him. And when he looked back, it was all Luos, regardless of class, so that were following him. I think that's what's going to happen to Raila. It was going to be all Luos following him, regardless of class. And it's unfortunate that our freedom fighter is being reduced to this low. Yeah. Omollo, do you agree with me on that? That would be my...
Omollo doesn't seem like he's agreeing with me.
I'm not a keen political commentator. I only engage with political events as some sort of entertainment and comic relief, because politicians do very crazy things. And I actually pity people who follow them very keenly, because a politician does something today and people applaud them. Then they do the exact opposite of what they did today, tomorrow, and they expect to be applauded. And indeed, people applaud them. So, could be Raila finds himself in a difficult position, although I don't think it's fair to say that he finds himself in a position, because if you look at Raila's history, he's known to be a master of political strategy. So that it could be that he's reflected about political leadership in this country, looking at various regions, as Ambani indicates, and he's realized that maybe it would be too difficult to push another Kikuyu for the presidency, and that the Kikuyu constituency then would want somebody who could be termed as a safe pair of hands. And then he grabs that as an opportunity immediately. And he must have also reflected about the likelihood of Deputy President Ruto taking over power in 2022, which looked like a real possibility as we got out of the 2017 elections. And he's now trying to appeal to the Kikuyu constituency by telling them that, you know, for you, your chances are gone. We can't try to push for another Kikuyu presidency, in which case then you might have to make do with the deputy president, who is a Kalenjin. But here I am. I'm a safe pair of hands. Our ties go way behind during the fight for independence. You saw the way my father worked together with, my father referring to...
now you're speaking as Baba.
Yes, I am Baba. You saw the way my father teamed up with...
your father?
With your father. And we were able to deliver independence. So we are joined in the hip. Let's work together on this. If we don't do it, the deputy president would take over power and he'll deal with both of us. So we better be together. I think maybe that's how the Kikuyus and Railas are looking at it.
Okay. That's interesting. All right. So let's move forward from maneno ya magazeti tuingie sasa kwa mambo ya katiba, and we want to start with the first section ya advices, general advice. Ndaanza na wewe Daktari Osogo, teketeke tukisonga.
Na umenizoea unaanzanga na mimi tu kila siku.
Wala basi. Ndakona naanza na Enselasi.
Maintain that. Ukianza na yeye kitambo itufikie tushafikia.
At least mshapanga. Umeanza kupaja. Tuanze na hapo.
No, this week I've been thinking about the story of Joseph in the Bible.
First, what was the topic before you go biblical?
The topic for?
The first thing you're trying to tackle.
No, advice.
That is general advice.
General advice.
General advice.
I'm like, which general? You know, everything is politics, BBI. I'm like, the story of Joseph.
Tumetoka kwa gazeti. Tulikuwa kwa magazeti sasa.
Tumekuwa mapasta.
Okay. General advice to the people.
Yes, and yeah, because
Usiseme nani ati Solomon aliwa Goliath.
So I've been thinking about the story of Joseph a lot. This young man gets a revelation that he will be a king, and the father will actually bow before him, and the mother, and all the brothers. And that is a dream, and it tells the family, and it scares everyone, you know. And then one day Joseph finds himself, you know, in a very bad place. The brothers want to kill him. I kept asking myself this question: what is he thinking when the brothers want to kill him? Okay, is the dream still in his head? Then anyway, they compromise and sell him to merchants. I think slave trade was still in vogue those days. And again, I kept asking, what does he think when he's with these guys as a slave, maybe being sold to them? And as if that is not enough, he ends up in prison. What does he think at those moments when he's having challenges? Then ultimately becomes king, like God had prophesied, and the whole of Israel comes to bow before him to get food during hunger. It just tells me that when God gives you a vision, or when you have a vision as a child, when you reflect on it and something convinces you will be this, I think you should never give up. I think there will be moments when you are in a hole, when you're being sold, when you're in prison, but I think you will succeed. That's what I've been reflecting on this week. I hope it helps someone.
Ambaye yuko mahali anapambana na hali.
Anapambana na hali kona mbaya. Si ndio?
Anakusa baadhi yao, unajua shida ni hii. Unajua kuna ndoto zingine Mungu naye anakuletea, unaona Mungu naye unanichezea. Ndio unaenda kuambia wazazi ati nyinyi mtoka mkiinama mbele zangu. Where do you even go and start telling that? Yeye majaribu bwana. Yeye majaribu. Nani Melissa?
This is a very difficult thing to give people advice who haven't asked for advice. But I think for me, what I thought about this week is that foolish people who do evil foolishly.
Wow.
That was what has been going through my head.
I hope that is not me.
It could be
What did you have in mind?
dreams you have of Joseph's dream. Before you had those reflections.
You need to know what's in this bottle. It's carrying a bottle.
Your bottle kona nini?
It's carrying a bottle.
But what I was thinking that is every single time I watch news, whether it's about a reopening of schools, whether it's about, a missing child, all these things that are happening around us, even globally, elections during Tanzania. I mean, all these stories, I'm like, who is thinking? Who has wisdom? Who has... because when people are disadvantaging a huge mass of other people, one person is disadvantaging a whole mass of individuals, and they don't care. And even the way they do it, haina ujanja, like they haven't thought it through, they haven't had those moments of reflections, of Joseph, in the hole, or blah, blah, blah. So they must be completely foolish, and we need to eradicate these foolish people. There is no other solution that I can think of my head or answer to why people would behave that way. From our leaders to even, guys who are demolishing schools so that they can build a road. I mean, every other day, imekuwa tu mastori za ujinga. So, foolish people who do evil, they do it foolishly, and their days are numbered.
Wow.
Foolish people do things foolishly.
Foolish people who do evil foolishly.
Hata mimi nitaunda t-shirt niandike hiyo.
Andike hiyo.
Trademark.
But that's a tongue twister. Foolish people who do things foolishly are foolish. Omollo.
Melissa, I agree with you.
But
who are the fools? Are the fools the people who are doing these things, or the people to whom they are being done? Why I ask this is because I actually don't think that these people who are doing bad things in this country are actually foolish. And I actually don't think that they've not taken time to reflect deeply on the implications of their actions. They have. The only problem is they have reflected and looked at these issues from some sort of a context that the public might not immediately be aware of what they intend to achieve. They have a goal. And the goal, of course, as I keep saying, is a selfish one. Look at, for example, the way you see the government coming up with a grand infrastructural project. You look at the project and you say, but we don't need this in Turkana. I mean, we need it. You don't get it. We need it because it is only through the successful completion of that project that somebody would make money out of that project. So they're not foolish. They know what they want to achieve. The fool is actually me and Melissa, who are asking, but don't we have engineers who should have done some study to look at the feasibility of this project in Turkana. The feasibility for them is bottom line. What are we getting out of it?
The value.
The value. So when you talk about foolishness, you have got to be a bit careful, Melissa.
No. Yeah, I'm not a foolish person. I said I'm going to eradicate these people because I've understood that they're just foolish. Their framework is foolishness, ujinga, tupu, raw.
Ndio mingi.
Yes.
Haya.
T-shirt yako
Plastic. Yes, Omollo. Yes. Yes, Omollo.
I think Bitok, you keep forgetting that my other name is also Joseph, and I'm happy that Ambani has talked about me.
Yes,
Yes, and I'll build on his inspirational message. I'll talk about persistence. I think we live in very challenging times. COVID has revealed to many people many obvious things about their lives. Many people in this country and maybe the world live on the edge without knowing that they actually do. So when we had COVID coming in, and everything got disrupted. If ordinarily you were able to survive from month A to month B by the grace, then you needed more grace. So COVID just confirmed that you've been doing badly anyway. And so we must take this period in which we find ourselves as some sort of an opportunity to reflect on how we can improve our lives. And we must always remember that persistence helps. Whatever you are doing at the moment, whatever you've been doing, please keep doing it. And if you've got a clear dream and goal like Joseph in the Bible did, you'll ultimately achieve it. But you can't achieve a dream that you don't have. So you need a dream, then you combine it with persistence.
Thank you for clarifying. It's the Joseph in the Bible.
Not Joseph on the tackle. But you know, you tell someone what you've been doing, keep doing it. You know, people have been doing bad things. Keep doing it, it means they make it worse. That's why, guys.
You need to have a clear dream.
All right, National Security Advisory Council, the other day, the raft of laws contain the politics. You know, at times you don't know how laws are made. You know, it's quite interesting. People sit in a corner and they say, now, from today, Joseph Omollo should not use Mbakaliwe. Inafaa kutumiange nini? Atumiange uruaiwe in the interest of the nation. First of all, what is the constitutional mandate of NSAC? Is it constitutional? Is it a constitutional body? What is its business? And do you guys agree with the laws that came out? Once again, I'll start with you, Ambani. And that is, next time you'll have to change the seat.
I'm up to the task.
Next time you'll have to change the seat. All
right. I don't know where I don't know what that is. Because the Constitution, if you look at the chapter on security, national security, Melissa, you're writing a paper on that. Chapter you should 14. Be the one to talk about that. Chapter 14 of the Constitution talks about a national security council. And it talks about who can sit in that council. The president, the chief of staff, and the KDF, the Inspector General of Police, Minister Cabinet Secretary responsible for defense, Cabinet Secretary responsible for internal security. It's a constitutional organ, and even the DP sits in there. When you manufacture a different one, what agenda do you have? That leaves me thinking and asking harder questions than I had before. And there's a parallel to it. For example, when you sidestep ESCC in the fight against corruption and use DCI, what are you doing? And I'm just trying to show that it's a pattern of sidestepping constitutional institutions and using the ones you can manipulate. I'm really worried about that. So for me, clearly, that organ and that statement Kenya read was read from the wrong motive, from the wrong place.
Yes.
Both were wrong. Secondly, what they purported to do is more worrying than even the institution that did it, to limit constitutional rights. What we were saying in 2010, and maybe it already came up earlier from the conversations the three of us were having earlier, that the constitution was a coup against them. They don't like us demonstrating, they don't like us having a rally, they don't like us expressing ourselves, and you can see that they're trying to pull back. They're trying to take away what we already have. What they did was unconstitutional, clearly unconstitutional. We have the right to assemble, we have the right to picket, to demonstrate, to express ourselves. Those are, in fact, these ones didn't even come with the 2010 Constitution. Yeah. They were solidified with the IPPG reforms of 1997, if you remember. And some reforms were done at that point. It was called Inter-Party Parliamentary Group meeting, if you remember those conversations. And we were able to change some laws or sections of laws that were troublesome in the Chiefs Act, the Public Order Act. And clearly, there seems to be evidence that we need to do further reforms in that area, because the Public Order Act clearly still needs, to be constitutionalized further. In IPPG reforms, I think that's where I could be wrong. I've seen senior counsel here, Melissa and Omollo can help, but I could be wrong. But I think that's where we introduced this idea of informing the police.
Yes.
And the idea was just to inform. Why you informed police so that they know there's a rally and come to cover. Cover, not to disperse, but to provide security. So when someone misinterprets that, you see, to start saying that, look, you have to inform police, but police have the right to say whether you will go on or not, then we clearly have lost it. We have the thing upside down. And I have serious trouble with that. So I think I need to clarify for the nation that the police have no power to allow you to hold a rally or not hold it. You inform them so that they can come and cover that rally.
And what's the difference between informing and asking for permission? Because it looks like they have interpreted it to mean ask for permission.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Informing you is I'm telling you, I'll be coming to your house at 3 p.m. or like, I'll be at point A at this time. I'm not asking you, can I please go to point A this? What's the difference between asking for permission and informing the police?
Yes, and that's why I gave you the context of IPPG reforms. We had that consensus then that, police used to do the same things they're doing now. Come disperse rallies, shoot people, tear gas and all those kind of nonsense. And when we had that IPPG reforms, one of the consensus was exactly that. That we shall inform the police, but so that they don't come to disperse our rally, so that they come and cover the rally, and they will work with the person that has the meeting so that they can identify. Sometimes you have a rally and some people who are not yours come. So you tell them, huyo sio wetu na ni kama agenda yake ni mbaya, tusaidie kutoa huyo. That was the whole agenda. But when they start using it the way they're using it, then it really, really worries me. And clearly, I have seen us go back, not to 97, but to maybe 82, 83. And that's
and I think when we are making laws in this country, we also need to consider how the police will process it. Because that is very key, because you make the laws and then, you can pick it up from there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And picking up from what you're just saying, police perceptions, that is clearly one of the problems with the Public Order Act, and some of these extra powers that are given by directives like from this illegal body called NSAC. And I wanted to also pick up on that history. I mean, the Public Order Act is one of those colonial legacies we have, those relics from state of emergency of 1952. So the language in the Public Order Act, as Ambani was trying to explain, has been problematic all through from 1952. Through independence, there have been reforms, but of course, matching what the regime at the time wants. So if, Moi wants to use it to suppress a certain people, and it's coupled with this other act called Preservation of Public Security Act, and those others, Chief Act, Vagrancy Act, anything that alludes to idle people just running around in the streets doing what we call mutiny. I think that's the word they like, mutiny, a rebellion against the status quo. And it's upsetting. And also when I read the NSAC directive, I was upset because this is something that I had researched on last year so vehemently. And so when I saw the news, I was excited. I was like, hiya, they're actually talking about the Public Order Act. They're amending something. They're changing something. Because nyewe inasumbua. I read what it's saying. You're taking us back to easy vitus notification versus permission. You're taking us back to the, ideas of, reasonable force and all that, all those problems that have been following us since colonization. So police perceptions is very important. And in the reform process of understanding how gatherings are supposed to be conducted, people have made so many efforts. In fact, the question of breach of the peace, which is why police come in and kick, tents, and they kick, the tires on the road, and they throw tear gas, is because in their view, and that's why I'm saying the Public Order Act needs the police to, be really trained and inculcated in this doctrine of human rights, and, when to say, let me just use dialogue and not my gun. We're still in that journey. And so to have a directive like NSAC really takes us back. What Kenyans need to be very keen on, even with these directives and the reform process with Public Order Act, it's actually to your disadvantage. There are many youth who like running around. You saw what happened in Moranga. They're disorganized and just being appointed by somebody. The NSAC, they're trying to say it was against Ruto's rally. Ruto has a certain protection under this political class. But to me, who I'm most fearful for is those 2 or 3 people who die whenever there is a rally. Because the Public Order Act also legitimizes force by the police. Because, again, as you rightfully said, it's about police perceptions. Police are given a lot of power in those acts. They can arrest someone without a warrant. They can, use force, and then they are not liable for those injuries or deaths caused. And part of the reform process was even to professionalize them, to teach them, when to use the gun, when not to use the gun. And some of these units like GSU also, they're trying to, force they've had from many years ago. Even calling them National Police Service is part of the change. So it's to your disadvantage not to understand gravity of taking us back to those 1982 days as a person who still wants to express themselves on the street. The other, to close now, the other problem with the Public Order Act and all these things that are to the disadvantage of a protester is that if you're caught in that, they say melee, that disorderly action, according to a police officer, you can attract heavy penalties. I think it's usually life imprisonment, according to the penal code, and there's also 7 years, and many people have been actually charged with that offense of malicious destruction of property. So when you see people throwing stones, or even, I told you the acts are colonial, disrupting a bridge, penal code states that 7 years imprisonment for damaging such property. And you can ask activists, they have actually been charged with malicious damage to property because it's one of those higher offenses. It is not lost on me that there are many activists who have pushed for reform, not only through the courts to give us clarity on what breach of the peace means, even to the Supreme Court, but they've also tried, as Ambani is saying, that when they're protesting or holding a rally or campaign, they make sure they notify the police officers. So that system has been in use and it's worked sometimes. I don't know why NSAC thinks that if they now add more timelines or whatever, because usually like 24 hours, that's the timeline in the act we had before. Now CG's vitus are 2 weeks. I don't know who they're trying to. They're creating a constitutional movement also.
Maybe they want to employ more police in those 2 weeks.
But what I was trying to say is that it has worked the way it is, despite the problems of the Public Order Act. People have notified the police. People have gone on the streets. I think even the other day there was one of the Shona people just walking, marching non-violently on the street. You can see them not disrupting anyone or anything, and you can clearly see they have some organization, they have some leaders there with them. They can identify themselves, they have certain t-shirts or banners. So for me, what I want to say when I read this directive is like, don't get confused with the politics of directives and Ruto and curtailing him. Ruto will be protected by 60 billion, shillings to get his way out of the trouble, or he's going to be protected by his security class. But the common wananchi who's there kirusha mawe na kusijui pelting stones at police officers who are, throwing tear gas at them, ole wako utalala ndani, life imprisonment, 7 years.
It's really bad for the ordinary people.
Really
Not just the
them.
ones throwing stones, but even ordinary people might want a rally to demonstrate against a village headmaster that has defiled a child. Something like that. So that would be really difficult for the ordinary people. I really agree with you, Melissa.
Yeah.
Ruto is a passing cloud in this sense.
Yeah.
But really for
and you saw there's no discrimination in how they use force. Wanapiga wa mama, wanapiga watoto. Anyone who is caught up in that mess dies or gets injured, and you never hear of compensation for these parties. But I mean, I could speak a lot. I know there are some who have actually got compensation. Let me not be
general.
Nuanced. I mean, not nuanced.
All right. Our cousin Yusuf Omollo.
I find myself in a difficult position, having to tackle this issue after Ambani has spoken, the constitutional law scholar. After Melissa has spoken, the national security expert.
The radical scholar.
And radical scholar. So let me maybe then talk as the ordinary non-expert person. And I'll do this by sharing a story. So a friend is driving from Nairobi to Kisumu. He gets stopped along the way by traffic police cops. And he's told that you've been overspeeding on the road. So you've breached the Traffic Act. So then, as normal, he is told, where is your driver's license? He gives it over to the police officer. Then they start to have negotiations on the way forward. Of course, the ordinary repercussion of having breached the law is the police officer would make a determination on whether they want to take you to court or not. Already you are under arrest if it's indicated that you breached the law. So these two people, my friend and the police officer, have a conversation. And the line that the conversation takes is that they're having a discussion on the bribe to be paid. My friend, it turns out, other than owning a car, at that moment he's got nothing in his pocket. So he's not able to pay this bribe. So what he does is that he tries to then get off the road so that he could park off because he's been arrested already. Then when he tries to drive away from this police officer, the police officer asks him, but where are you going to? Then he says, naweka gari kando, ndo tushughulikie hii maneno. And if you've been on the road numerous times, you'll know the way police officers station themselves on the road. Usually, you meet the roadblock, then around 20 meters away, you find the other police officers standing there. I guess the intention is that the group 1 stops you. If you don't stop, then group 2 would jump onto the road to block you. So my friend was driving towards group 2. Then this police officer shouted at him, usiende huko, utashikwa. So he was so surprised, he thought he'd been arrested initially. What the officer meant is that I had not arrested you. I was only trying to earn a living by asking for a bribe. I was not enforcing the law. But ukienda huko, wakijua ulivunja sheria ya Traffic Act, watakushika. Na singependelea ifanyike hivyo. Of course, his point is please negotiate it with me. I don't want to bring any other third party on board. Let's resolve this issue. Tumalizia hapa. Why I bring this is because I think national security is important. We all agree. But national security must be enforced in a way that respects the constitution and in a way that achieves public interest. Most of the time, our security apparatus in this country actually view the powers that they have as some sort of a talent for earning a living. So the rougher you are as a police officer, the more money you can be able to extract from the public. Yet it shouldn't be that way. It should be that if you have a problem, for example, on the road, then the first person you should think about is a police officer. Yet in reality, we don't think about them at all. If you run into trouble and you see a police officer around, actually hide. For example, sometimes you're driving on the road, then you are stopped and he stops you for no reason. Then you come and drive past the officer and stop. Then he looks at your car and he realizes, oh, the fella does not have, the brake lights are not working. Then he comes to you and says, you know, you've committed a very serious offense. One of your traffic light, one of your brake lights are not working.
Not working.
Then as a foolish, law-abiding citizen, you say, thank you very much, officer. You've just alerted me about something very important. I'm driving to Nakuru. In the next 20 minutes time, I'll have that fixed. He says, no. Unaenda court, na penalty ya hii unajua ni 100,000. He keeps, I mean, they're very good. They educate you on the law. Kwambia it's 20,000. Alafu unajua tena utaenda huko siji mara adjournment kotini
upoteze masaa yako. So he really cares about you. He is trying to counsel you to accept an easier way to deal with it. And ultimately he says, officer naweza pata chai. Then, I mean, after going through that counseling, it's only easy to say, yes, tumalizane na hii mambo, mimi niende shughuli zangu, wewe pia uende shughuli zako. But the point is, our security apparatus do not believe in the call that the constitution has made to them, that they should actually be our protectors, they shouldn't be our oppressors, which they are at the moment. Right. Naona pia hapa kuna issue ya jana. Yesterday the president appointed some ambassadors and head of commissions. And the most interesting that came out is that most of these guys are either IBC or former IBC commissioners. Daktari Ambani, kuna mkarango unaoendelea ama nini yaendelea? Kuna mambo jikoni vipi? What do you make of that, the appointments?
You know, you remember last week, my advice for the week was listen to what is said and also what is not said.
Being said.
And additionally, what is just acted, a performance. If I listen to Uhuru, what he says, what he doesn't say, what he acts, I think I'm able to patch up one or two things, and I'm not sure I'm wrong on any. Number one, we talked about BBI earlier.
Yeah, sure.
I think that man's head now just BBI yake amuka, BBI yake lala, na huyo ndugu yake mwingine. There's a problem at IBC in the sense that it is not properly constituted, as we all know. These three commissioners pretended to resign, if you remember, and they did not resign. When they went back,
like Morade,
Chebukati told them, you resigned, go away. And I think there's a tussle in, not a tackle, a tussle in IBC. I think what's probably happening there is that Uhuru wants to have them go out to clear the way for appointment of new commissioners at the IBC. That's one of them. The second one, which is more worrying than the first, is that if you are a constitutional office holder and the president loves you so much that after one assignment, he gives you another, trust me, it tells a lot. It speaks volumes. In this sense, the office, most constitutional office holders hold are offices that do not endear you to the president. They are offices that naturally bring some friction between you and the president. So, for example, if you're an IBC commissioner, very likely you're telling the president, president's party, every party, no rigging. We're going to be very strict. Elections are going to go as planned. there will be no malpractice. We shall not tolerate this, we shall not tolerate this, we shall not tolerate that. You will be stamping the authority of the election management body. And if you do it so well, the president will be longing for the day you will leave. If the president is so comfortable with you that, you know, he's taking care of your interests by appointing you, then it means that there was a problem. And could justify some of the claims people made earlier of vote rigging, of malpractice at the IBC, just by what the president did. The third thing, which is the only one I'll comment, and I let my sister and brother also comment, is the Ukora treachery that is involved in all this. If you noted clearly, the president did not make them ambassador or high commissioners. He actually appointed them deputy head of mission. Yeah, they were deputy head of mission, all of them. And there was a catch in this. What I suspected was the case. The president was not very sure he wanted debate on this in parliament. And if you're being made ambassador, then you have to go through parliamentary approval. If you're being made high commissioner, you have to go through parliamentary approval. But if you're deputy head of mission, you're almost that status, but you're not. So you don't go through parliamentary approval, so you get the job immediately. So the president was trying to play politics of avoiding responsibility or accountability, but still give his people a position. And for me, I call that treachery. Ukora,
Ukora sugu.
Ujambazi. I don't know. Trickery. I don't know how to call it. Ndio mnasoma Kizungu. Uko Wajaluo Kizungu inakuanga part of you learn Kizungu first, then you learn Luo.
Thank you very much.
What is the word for it? What is the word for it, Omollo? Yes.
Let me talk about, I know you might have been thinking about this word, but you couldn't access it.
Yes.
There is a virtue called shame, to be able to feel shame. All of us make mistakes. But after we've made mistakes, it matters a lot how you act when you get to know that you made the mistake. One person, when he's been told that you made a mistake, he'll apologize. In which case he recognizes that what he did was wrong and somebody could have been hurt in the process, and he's genuinely sorry for it. The second person will be told that you committed this mistake. Then he says, no, there's no mistake there. You are targeting me unfairly. That second type of person is a very difficult person to work with, because he already has an agenda that he intends to achieve, and he'll achieve it at whatever cost. When we passed the Constitution in 2010, we had a chapter on independent offices and commissions. The innovation behind this was that we wanted people who would be able to push back against the deep state. That we had people who would be so committed to the constitutional ideals that they'll be able to risk everything for the observance of the Constitution. And that was backed up by then requiring that their appointment had to be done in a very rigorous manner, that they had to be people of impeccable moral, financial, and intellectual standing. And we assumed that once we appoint these people, then they'll be able to act independently, and they'll be able to tell off the president or whoever tries to breach the Constitution. Of course, as the Constitution was being drafted, we knew that this would come at a cost. So that today, if I am made the Auditor General, a position for which I don't qualify, I should know likely to run into problems with many senior ranking government officials, and when I'm accepting that position, I must also accept that risk. I don't think in reality many people appointed to these positions actually even think about the risk. so that when they go to the office, they have to make a decision. They know that the term is limited. So you could remain committed to the Constitution for the next 6 years and annoy the powers to be. Then what happens to you after 6 years? So you must have accepted that this is an unpleasant position which you are taking, and you are even ready to be a martyr for the Constitution. Not many people are ready for that. So that when people get into these commissions and independent offices, day one already they're saying, so what happens to me on the first day of year 7? I don't want to step on the toes of the president, because if I do, then I'll be in the cold in 6 years' time. And why I talked about shame is because if today I am a former commissioner of IEBC, and the president approaches me, well, I don't know if he approaches people, I don't know. He approaches me and tells me that we want now to appoint you to be a judge at the East African Court of Justice. I would immediately reject it. I would say, but the president, what would the public think about it? I was supposed to have acted independently as an IBC commissioner, and you remember during my term, there were allegations. So if you appoint me to be a judge today, don't you think people would be able to connect the dots and say, so it's true that you had actually been influenced when you were in office? But people seem not to bother about it. So that if you think I am so qualified, Mr. President, maybe you then appoint me to a position where the appointment process is very rigorous, so that maybe somebody else could have an examination of my qualifications, so that ultimately when I get appointed, there's some sort of a disconnect between my actions at IBC and my current appointment. And somebody will say objectively, well, he seems to have been appointed on the basis of his professional competence. That's not happening in this country. In this country, it is possible for somebody to cease being an Auditor General today, then tomorrow he's being made the Attorney General, and he gladly takes up that position. I see the Constitution as some form of a software, and I see the people who are supposed to implement the Constitution as hardware. And I think there is some incompatibility between the software, and which is the Constitution, and the hardware. So that this hardware, once you have the software that's not compatible installed, then the hardware does nothing. It just sits. I mean, there are many parts of the Constitution that are actually dead. They've been made intentionally dead, frozen. Nothing is being achieved in that regard. So we need really to reflect deeply on the caliber of people that we appoint to these independent offices. And I think as a people, we must be honest enough to say whether we believe in the Constitution or we don't. It's not good for us to create the impression that we believe in the Constitution if we don't. Because you see, if you do that, then you're being treacherous. It's difficult to engage you. If you came out and said, as the president, that I don't believe in this Constitution, it is a bad thing. We'll know how to deal with you. But when you say that, this Constitution is a very good thing, and I believe in it, and I also believe that there are parts of it that we need to improve, yet you're being dishonest, then it becomes very difficult to deal with you.
All right. Melissa?
I just wanted to think globally on this issue, because I know there are many Kenyans who are listening who love to travel, and this may probably concern them. I don't know, I didn't read the story, but I'm hearing ambassadors and high high commissioners, and that usually means they're installed in certain embassies somewhere in this, big world. And you've heard stories. So anyway, for me, it's a revelation that, this is the same crooks who cannot perform locally are the ones who have been appointed to global positions. No wonder we have stories of, women workers going to Middle East, and then something bad happens to them, and there's no embassy or ambassador or point person to save them. No wonder there's a Kenyan in the UK who's been beaten to a pulp by the police officers, and he actually had a mental illness. This is a story for, I think, last month, and we saw the gory video. And you just get a statement from, that guy, I don't want to name him, but I know him, but that they're going to follow up with investigations. No wonder you hear during this COVID period, sijui Kenyans stuck in Sudan, Kenyans stuck in China, Kenyans stuck in Somalia, student visas, sijui who to write to. You're seeing parents writing letters and showing them on TV, please bring my child home. No wonder, kume is this same treacherous, waganga, foolish people who cannot perform locally are going globally. Woo! So you Kenyans want to travel, Jua too, it's going to affect you at the embassy, wherever
Melissa,
you go.
when you spoke, I just thought about it.
It's crazy.
These are the face of Kenya in New York, in
everywhere,
Geneva, in New Delhi. And they are incompetent.
They're incompetent.
And they are the face of our country. But like
and
you said,
there are
consequences because they can't even protect your interests.
They can't even protect you locally. And so when they go there, they have now a double mandate that they have to represent Kenyan interests in another country. So maybe now you'll be asking the one who's probably in the US, yes, what do you think about this Trump-Biden debate? Hajui? Because even in Kenya, they didn't even know there was rigging in IBC.
But Melissa, when we say that they didn't perform,
see, according to that constitution, you were saying about shame
to understand
and ideals.
How you are judging them, because they actually performed very well according to the appointing authority, and that's why they deserve another turn,
another promotion.
The appointing authority is the people of Kenya. So according to the president,
according to the president,
also according to the boss. Yeah, very well. So
he's not the boss. These are independent authorities.
Appointing officers, the boss is us. President.
No. The appointing officers are us. Those officers are for the sovereign people.
Anyway, those people with full passports, just know this is for you. Read those names clearly, because you utapatana na muradhe sijui wapi.
Ambassador. Tuke kuliendaje hapa. All right, quickly moving forward, there's a story that the DCJ appointed the panel is ali appointed panel pale kwa JSC. Another another story of these guys want to kick out Maraga. Who is this who is so much in hurry? Maraga is retiring. Who is this so much in a hurry to kick out Maraga? Can we combine the two, the panel and someone who is trying to kick out Maraga? As usual, Daktari, you will have to start with you.
And this time in a hurry because we have to finish now.
Yes, you need to make peace with
we
that.
need to finish and go now.
Yeah.
I was thinking about many things when I saw that. One is that the Chief Justice has decided to behave like the bigger party to the conflict. They don't follow the rules, but he says I will follow. So because the case is against him, he decides that I will not empanel. I will ask the DCJ to do that. It is constitutional, it is legal. The Deputy Chief Justice deputizes him, and he can assign her responsibility. So it should be fine that he did that, but it also shows that he's the bigger brother. He's not into the small fights. He lets the Deputy Chief Justice do the panel. He trusts the judges, and he knows that any judge will sit and do justice. So 5 judges were appointed in that regard. Second, I think it talks about succession. It's clear that the Chief Justice is already preparing the ground to leave. And it's clear, I think Kenyans need to know, we need to be prepared for this, that when he leaves, the Deputy Chief Justice will act as Chief Justice. The law allows that to happen. She can act for up to 6 months. And then within which should have found a new Chief Justice. I don't foresee a new Chief Justice being appointed in January. I don't. I foresee that there will be several changes in the Judicial Service Commission, and probably they will only be able to make this kind of changes around February, March. next year. So clearly, Mwidu might be in office up to maybe May next year as Deputy Chief Justice. And I think he's also one of the candidates for the Chief Justice position.
So we should even be more worried about the DCJ than the CJ at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We should really be more concerned about her. Remember, she's had challenges being arraigned in court, being shot at,
Accused of
a lot
corruption.
of allegations about her. I don't know the truth in them or the malice in them. It would be good to protect her so that she goes through a fair process as all this happens. I think finally, I think that someone might be keen on destroying the legacy of Maraga. Remember, this is the man who was cancelled and nullified a presidential election. He's the man who has sent the whole parliament home. People might be keen on ensuring he doesn't get that gift of retirement. A retired Chief Justice enjoys a lot of status and also security. He has personnel, chief of staff, secretaries, and a salary, a car, and all that government expense. They might be keen on ensuring he doesn't get that if he's removed before. But whichever way, I think Maraga will go down as a Chief Justice that was courageous. And I'm not sure we shall get another that would be that courageous.
Yassini actually disagreed with you. Said Maraga is a good politician and a bad judge. All right, interesting. Melissa.
You know,
Other two issues.
those are the news items that I don't know why they are news. I don't know what the big deal was. Ambani, maybe you can enlighten us. Why was this such a big deal that we have to discuss it?
Because we are here for SHERIA WIKI, we discuss what happens in the week.
It's a legal happening.
It's a legal
Happening, yeah.
It's a legal
We can't ignore
because
it.
now my mind has I'm battling between foolish wisdom software. So I think I'll just say briefly that I guess then they're doing pretty well if we're going to have a DCJ who also has a string of allegations on corruption, etc. So we're doing pretty well in
But
that
you must
regard.
not be quick to judge her because the accusers were not doing it in good faith.
I don't know.
And we must leave the processes.
I know nothing.
And do you know good and bad faith?
Yes, I know nothing.
Omollo.
In relation to the creation of the panel, the bench to listen to this case that was filed against the advisory by the Chief Justice, I want to say two things. Number one, that it's actually a good thing that the Chief Justice is being held accountable to the constitutional requirements. So it's a good thing that his advisory has been taken to court, and we must celebrate that as sort of execution of the Constitution. The second issue I want to talk about is looking at the position beyond the determination of this matter before the court. I mean, once the panel has been created, the bench, they'll certainly hear the matter and ultimately make a determination. But I'm concerned whether this process would ultimately achieve anything. And I say this because I think there was some news last week that the president had communicated that he'll not follow the advisory that the Chief Justice had given. Remember, it is the president to carry out whatever order the court will give. That president has already taken a position that he'll not implement it. He's received legal counsel from his own Attorney General who said, ignore. You are not bound by law to implement that advisory. So even as we celebrate the creation of the bench, as we listen to the discussions about the constitutionality of the advice by the Chief Justice, we must not lose focus of the ultimate goal. It could just be some sort of legal charade that we run through this process, then ultimately an order is made and the president does not want to implement it. and we run into an impasse like we did with the appointment of the 41 judges. Bottom line is good software, bad hardware. We need to work on the hardware. We need to improve the hardware so that the hardware can be made compatible with the Constitution. Let's not focus too much on the weaknesses of the software. The software might have weaknesses, yes, we admit, but let's also talk about how human beings who are supposed to implement the Constitution and who are the hardware in this case have significantly undermined the operation of the Constitution. On the issue of the petition or maybe the move to remove the Chief Justice, I don't feel bad about it again. It's implementation of the Constitution. If indeed anybody has got grounds upon which they think Maraga should leave office, well and good, they should be supported. Because ultimately, if the process runs objectively and independently without interference, then of course the Chief Justice would be acquitted of the charges ultimately. So for me, I don't want to start panicking that there are people attacking the Chief Justice, there are people attacking the Constitution. The Constitution is there for good and bad people. So if bad people decide to use it, we can't deny them that opportunity. We are sure that there are legal safeguards that could be able to respond to their bad faith.
All right. Daktari Ojwang, utupe your remarks very quickly. Tulikuwa tuna wrap.
Yes.
Yeah, just closing. So you just give us your remarks on what we've been discussing. Alafu basi tufunga.
Yeah. I've been following it. Has been a great discussion. Just to probably pick one issue about the latest appointment. Article 249 talks of the objective of independent commission, that they are to protect the sovereignty of the people. They are to secure the observance and state organs by protecting the values and principle, promote constitutionalism and all that. And so we had a comment that this training or this area, especially when it comes to issue of international relation and our embassies, it has remained political. It depends with who whispered a good word on the ear of the president. Yet we have professionalized this area. And as Ongoya and Mwalimu was saying, the implication is very weak protection of our international interest. Kenya is dwindling. Even within the region, it's a paper tiger. It's no longer demanding respect. Within East African community, it's isolated. The friends we had, even Museveni is more comfortable dealing with Tanzania at this point. You can see of late they even decided to integrate their stock market and currency, Uganda, Burundi, Tanzania, and leave Kenya behind. You see how we bungle the Somali issue, where millions and millions were spent, and in any appointment that those people were called by Somali government, nobody showed up. So Kenya fame, Kenya respect has really gone down because of this kind of appointment. I don't know, I don't have an answer to it. But what do citizens do when they think they have done all they can, pass a constitution that they call groundbreaking, transformative, that they thought was going to protect them? And whoever keep violating the constitution is also trying to overwhelm them. I don't think it is like one incident. It is meant to, on your face kind of thing, utadu. I remember applying for some of this position, and I see my credential matched in the newspaper that I went to KU and studied science. And when I called the panel that was doing shortlisting, they told me, you know, we received some instructions. You will be blacklisted if you make a lot of noise, even in future. and so the process of applying for this thing, of looking for those 15 documents, of looking for reference and doing that. And then now, somebody who is actually a lawyer in that panel telling me, you know, you don't want the state to mark you as the troublemaker. Yes, you might not make it. Yes, your credential is bungled here. But for you to survive in future, you need to lie low. You need to lie low. So, I mean, it's a race to the bottom. But I think Kenyans need to think beyond. What do you do when you find that the constitution you thought could protect you is not able, because somebody is trying to overwhelm any aspect so that you give up and you just say, well, this is Kenya. And you surrender. This is Africa. And in my last remark, that is almost where people are. I've even found a lot of even young people, even people who go to law school, they don't expect change. They don't expect something radical. They don't expect that law can actually do anything important to a society. And they just go through life. You know, you wake up, you find their Facebook status is, oh, I'm up. I mean, they have lowered their expectation or managed them so well that there is no expectation. Somebody, as I finished, said this about Africa. They went to, they are originally from Ghana. They came to a serious conference. He's giving a story of, you know, as a CEO, first the person who was sweeping asked him, what do you do? And he realized he could not explain what he does. The guy told him, me, I'm a sweeper, this is my broom, this is the sign, slippery floor. You, what do you do? But then now with that, he went to the room preparing for the conference. And the way he wanted to prepare, like some of us, is to have a hot shower, and he thinks through as he does the hot shower. So, no, this is the an hotel in Nigeria. So he goes to the hotel, 5-star hotel, get to the shower, open the tap, the shower. The shower had only 3 holes can bring water. The rest are not bringing water. And you know the experience of shower head is you feel you need to be feeling like drowning. So he turns off the shower head and calls the reception and tell them, you know, this thing is not working. They're like, oh, we apologize, we'll send our engineer. Of course, you know it's not an engineer, but the guy shows up and says, okay, what's wrong? And he goes there and turns the shower head and he says, but it is working. He does not know how to argue with this person. So he says, oh, I might have been tired. Okay. So he showers. Whoever made shower had made it so that about 50 holes emit water. But him and these people have accepted as long as 3 holes emit water. Shower head complete. He goes to Ghana, same experience, and these people said, oh yeah, come to the room and say, yes, this shower head is broken, and they remove and put a new shower head. And he's saying, you know, this is the problem of Africa, that we have accepted. And as long as you can accept that, as long as 3 holes are working, we are fine. Yet whoever designed the shower head knew that the maximum impact is not even 99. All holes must be emitting water. So we have kind of lowered our expectation. We have managed them. Because, you know, we have to survive, we have to be resilient. But as long as all the shower head are not emitting water, then the idea of shower head is abandoned. As long as all the constitution are not followed, as long as there is goosebump, and that's what he was saying, shameless. You know, you have this, in the other side you have a handshake, and you are talking of inclusivity, In the other side, you are managing exclusivity. In the other side, you are managing mediocrity. In the other side, you are bastardizing the constitution. In the other side, you are repairing it. In the other side, you have found what is wrong with it. In the other side, you are threatening and beating people who are assembling. In the other side, you are praying for them. In the other side, you are taking cabinet to the retreat. In the other side, you are telling Kenyans, please pray for your leaders. I mean, you are overwhelmed by all this level of mediocrity that either you give up, and sometimes it drives me to suicidal thought. I'll be the first one to admit. I feel like
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. for that. Although you came briefly, we wish you could come.
Should come to
Ambani should now cancel you. After this show, Ambani should come and look to cancel you. All right, thank you so much for coming in today for Sheria Wiki. Asanteni sana kwa jambo mmefanya. The tacklers, asante sana kwa wale watu ambao wametune in na sisi na kukapole ni simu ilikuwa na shida kidogo. That's why you could not receive your calls. Simu ilikuwa na shida kidogo, but we're happy to have you. I hope to have you again on Monday. I wish you guys a very great weekend. This is the tackle, and the tackle ends at what time? The tackle ends now. Bye bye and take care. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye bye.